Yarit, hello. I'm a wizard. As my brother-in-law Gandalf always says, a wizard is never late to make their prediction video about games. They make one precisely when they fancy doing it, because they used to have a job where, making videos became a bit of a chore. It was quite stressful, so they can make one whenever they want to, and they can do it in their own way, and it could be silly and throwaway in an attempt to try and gain some control over their hobby again. Or words to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. I haven't spoke to my sister in a long time. I ran over a dog in my wizard Subaru. 2023 was a big jar of ass. And although 2024 promises to be no better, at least we have video games to distract us from the horrors. Sort of. With 2024 still wiping away its newborn goo, it's time for me to once again peer into my gaming speculation orb to bring you my predictions for 2024. The cat is attacking my microphone lead. Stop that at once, you little rats. I'm infamously great at making video game predictions. In fact, we'll litigate my previous ones at the end of this video. If you're worried about my credentials, don't worry about it, bro. I got you. The beard and the wig have not aged well. This is the second time I've worn these, and they are deteriorating. I feel trapped in this, like it's taking over my entire face. Also, I have an open head wound, and was advised not to cover it, so better record this quick. It is time to summon forbidden knowledge from the void. Join hands, my loyal followers, as I bring to you 7 video game predictions for 2024, right after this commercial break.
Don't hate me 'cause I get attention. Don't turn me into what I'm not.
I call upon you, spirit. There, appearing in the orb, words from beyond the veil. It's... oh, for Christ's sake, it's a Switch 2 prediction.
Alright, let's get this one out of the way because I've been banging on about it for years at this point. The Switch 2 will launch in 2024, and it will be safe, predictable, and immediately successful. Now, I originally predicted that the Switch's successor would launch in 2022, which seems hilariously wrong in hindsight, but speaks to just how long in the tooth Nintendo's premier handheld has grown in the 7 years since its original launch. The Switch has been so successful that a direct successor has seemed all but inevitable since 2021, and indeed, rumours that began circulating around that time indicated a Switch follow-up was on its way, if not right around the corner. 2023 brought with it the most substantial reporting about a Switch successor to date, with multiple publications verifying that a select few developers had been shown the Switch successor at Gamescom in August. The device, which will still be a hybrid handheld that supports cartridges, will feature advanced hardware capable of running games like Breath of the Wild at a higher resolution and frame rate than the original console was capable of producing. Perhaps the most exciting part of this report is the claims that the console will also take advantage of Nvidia's DLSS technology. This allows less capable hardware to run games at a higher frame rate by using AI to increase the resolution. The result is a crisp, smooth image that is barely distinguishable from a version of the game that does not take advantage of this tech. Prominent mainly on PC, it's a cool feature that could future-proof the Switch for years to come. So it seems like a given that the Switch 2 will finally materialise this year, presumably in October or November. My prediction, then, is that when the console is finally revealed, it is not as innovative or as game-changing as Nintendo's previous hardware. It will be a system that supports both handheld and TV play, like the Switch. It will feature the exact same UI as the Switch. It will have the same form factor as the Switch. It will be, by all accounts, little more than a more powerful Nintendo Switch. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that's good. Great, even. You could argue the Switch is Nintendo's best console, the company's decision to combine their handheld and home console divisions, resulting in a flexible, reasonably priced system that is stuffed to the brim with innovative, appealing software. Why would they change tack now? Basically, what I'm saying is, don't expect anything exciting about the hardware itself. Maybe it will have a camera, or some kind of quirky controller improvement, such as advanced haptic feedback like we've seen on PlayStation's DualSense, but I'd be very surprised if even on a software level, the Switch 2 contains something resembling the likes of Street Pass or Miiverse. And I get it. The Switch has basically proven that the best gimmick Nintendo ever attempted was making a handheld that works on a TV, to the extent that a lot of the industry are now trying to emulate that success elsewhere. Innovation and creativity is still very much rife at Nintendo, but it's focused where it matters: the games. The Switch 2 may not have 2 screens, a bespoke social media network, or glasses-free 3D, but that's okay. It'll probably launch with a new 3D Mario game I can play in 4K, and I think that's going to be really neat.
Spirits, gods, creatures that reside within the dark recesses of existence itself, tell me the secrets of the future. Live services will die. Oh yeah, that makes sense.
On the 14th of December 2023, Naughty Dog announced that they were making the difficult decision to cancel their long-gestating Last of Us multiplayer game. In a blog post, the team stated, quote, "To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So, we had 2 paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. Although many found this decision disappointing, it speaks to a wider trend that I believe we will see spread out across the industry this year. Live service games are dead. Well, all of them apart from Fortnite and Rocket League. Destiny is on thin ice, but Warzone is probably okay. What I'm trying to say is that 2024 will be the year most companies quietly shutter their existing or even upcoming live service projects, finally coming to terms that the bubble that began in 2014 with the release of Destiny has well and truly burst. A predictable end, perhaps. The expectation that players would have time in their lives for more than one forever game was always a touch naive, but the process of transitioning away from this narrow focus is going to be rough for those who've spent years toiling away on a publisher-mandated live service project. Take Rocksteady's Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, for example, a live service take on the DC universe that is set to launch towards the end of this month. Announced just before the release of Square Enix's disastrous Avengers game, the chances of this loot-based shooter recouping its costs and maintaining a player base seem slim to none, despite being spearheaded by the team responsible for the Arkham games. In fact, while writing this, IGN has since released 20 minutes of gameplay for Suicide Squad that does not look good. This is a no from me. Why is it so busy? While some games, such as Sega's Hyenas, have already been shit-canned, there are many games whose fates still hang in the balance. Soulframe, Marathon, the multiple first-party Sony titles announced with CGI trailers last year that I'm struggling to remember the names of, and this is nothing to say of the presumably countless unannounced games that are still in development. Will they be quietly cancelled? Released a little fanfare? It seems like the former is sadly the more likely outcome. It's tragic, of course. The decision to pivot to a live service model is rarely made by the talented developers who ultimately pay the price when these things don't work out. Expect a noticeable shift in 2024 that sees live services replaced by more traditional multiplayer fares and a renewed focus on single-player releases. Doubly so in the case of Sony, who in 2022 announced that they were looking to launch more than 10 live service titles by 2026, a number that bizarrely increased to 12 in a follow-up interview last year. With Jim Ryan out the door, it seems likely that the company will backtrack on this decision to focus on doing what it does best instead, making 8 out of 10 narrative-focused action-adventure blockbusters. Although, saying that, doing so is not going to be an easy or quick decision. Could we be about to enter a period of drought when it comes to Sony's first-party studios, as the company scrambles to reassign talent to new projects that may not see the light of day for 2-3 years at the least? With few first-party exclusives lined up for 2024, it'll be interesting to see what the publisher has in store for the next year.
Those were a bit by the numbers. I mean, what's going to be next? A Microsoft one? Oh, for fuck's sake.
Microsoft had a predictably dry 2023. Other than the excellent Hi-Fi Rush, which we will circle back to later, their biggest first-party releases, Redfall and Starfield, failed to meet fan expectations. Both games, which at the time of writing have mostly negative ratings on Steam, should have been slam dunks for a company in desperate need of next-gen exclusives. Redfall was a co-op shooter from the team that single-handedly revived the immersive sim. Starfield was a brand new IP from the team that defined the modern open-world RPG. Both were disappointing, bland, and, in Redfall's case, absolute wank. As 2024 kicks off, it's hard not to feel like Microsoft's big acquisition project is yet to pay off. Wasn't the whole point of hoovering up the likes of Bethesda and Activision to provide a steady stream of top-quality exclusives for their Game Pass subscription service? Didn't they literally spend billions and battle through lengthy court cases in multiple countries with the intention of surpassing PlayStation to become the premium games machine of this generation? Did they really pay $7.5 billion for Starfield? This year, I'd expect more of the same from the Spencer Mansion. Outside of a few potential critical darlings such as Obsidian's Avowed or maybe Ninja Theory's Hellblade 2, Microsoft will continue to flounder when it comes to AAA titles that set the industry alight. There will be no big hitters, no single game that convinces those on the fence to invest in Microsoft's ecosystem. But they'll be alright. We won't see the full effects of the Activision acquisition for a few years now, but with an additional set of developers under their umbrella, it's hard to imagine a world where Game Pass doesn't eventually become the home for smaller, quirkier releases from larger studios.
In an ideal world, anyway. I mean, let's never forget what Microsoft did after they purchased Lionhead and Ensemble Studios. Normally, acquisitions come hand in hand with eventual layoffs further down the line. Which, sadly, takes us to our next prediction. Bizarrely, considering this decision, I'm going to try to be serious for a few minutes here. Last September, I made a video about how 2023 had been an unbelievable year for games up to that point, and although I still stand by all the things I said in that video, I failed to address that although 2023 was a great year for the games, it was a terrible year, an awful year for the people that make them. I planned to make a follow-up, but unfortunately ended 2023 incredibly burned out, so never found the time or the energy to do so. It just feels wrong while looking ahead not to address what may end up being the biggest, grimmest trend of 2024.
According to the website videogamelayoffs.com, which, by the way, the fact this website even exists is an exhausting reminder of how awful things are at the moment, an estimated 10,500 people lost their jobs in the games industry in 2023. As of the 11th of January 2024, when I am writing this video, an estimated 2,700 people have already been laid off from prominent companies such as Discord, Unity, and Twitch. It seems that this trend of layoffs will sadly continue throughout the year. In 2023, layoffs affected companies such as Epic Games, who let go of 830 employees, 16% of their workforce, because they spent too much money on making Fortnite a metaverse. That's literally what CEO Tim Sweeney said before laying off nearly 1,000 people, including the majority of staff at Fall Guys developer Mediatonic, who they had acquired a few years before. Embracer, the enormous conglomerate that spent the best part of 3 years hoovering up game developers with the same desperate ferocity that I eat a sharing bag of M&Ms, let go of 904 employees, shuttering entire studios, such as Saints Row creators Volition, the recently reformed Free Radical, who were working on a Time Splitters reboot and reportedly are trying to sell Gearbox, presumably as a means of gaining some much needed cash flow following a failed $2 billion deal. Layoffs also occurred at Amazon, Unity, EA, Ubisoft, Bungie, CD Projekt Red, Niantic, Relic, Media Molecule, Bethesda, The Coalition, and 343 Studios. The sad reality is that no corner of this industry has been untouched by this catastrophic wave of layoffs. 2023 was a phenomenal year for games, but both critical and commercial success did not protect the people who made them from being let go. Now, based on this, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the games industry was in complete disarray, that video games as a medium are no longer profitable. Perhaps the pandemic, which saw profits surge as people turned to video games to keep them entertained during long periods trapped indoors, led to false hope about long-term growth that has been shattered by war, supply shortages, and general economic instability that has resulted in cost of living increases and the risk of a wider recession. Now, those are certainly all factors, but In the same breath as announcing that 900 people had been let go, Embracer reported a 13% increase on year-on-year net sales, declaring the second quarter of 2023 to be, quote, one of our strongest quarters for new releases ever. Meanwhile, Fortnite celebrated its biggest single day in history back in November as it saw 44.7 million players boot up the game to check out its throwback OG season that saw its original map make a long-awaited return. In December, it launched 3 brand new games within Fortnite to universal acclaim. Amazon is Amazon. I do not need to give you evidence as to why a company of that size letting go of 700 people is one made by anyone who lives in the real world. Basically, no matter where you look, the games industry doesn't appear to be in anything other than rude health. Although there are definitely instances where a single title has failed to recoup its development costs, resulting in a small team having to reduce headcount in order to survive, a quick glance at general financials paints a picture of growth, or at the very least minor decline that is still comparably great compared to pre-pandemic figures. Now, I am not an economist.
I know, right? Shocking.
I don't claim to understand the way that big businesses operate, but it doesn't take the wolf of fucking Wall Street to look at this mess and come to the conclusion that something is fundamentally wrong. How can you leave thousands of people financially unstable a few months before fucking Christmas and think that you're anything other than an actual villain? This is not right. This is not the sign of a healthy industry. This reeks of a line must go up capitalist bullshit mentality that has always felt fundamentally at odds with a medium that is built upon passionate creativity. This is wrong. And although I have no answers as to how it can be helped, a video about the industry in 2024 would be incomplete without acknowledging that the people who hold it together have been thrown, and will continue to be thrown, into the gutter because line didn't go up as much as investors wanted it to. Wah. Obviously, mass unionisation would help with a lot of this. Any collective group of workers who can ensure they are compensated fairly or treated with respect during challenging times is a good thing, and although it can be very difficult to form a union, especially in the United States, it's not like it doesn't happen. I think we'll see more unions pop up over the course of the year, alongside co-op-owned studios and other new ventures that aim to protect their employees. Sadly, it won't stem the hemorrhaging that began last year. Throw in the rise of generative AI and turmoil within games media, and it seems all but guaranteed that this wave of absolutely rancid bullshit will continue well into 2024.
It's hard to, wrap up this section in a way that feels meaningful or even appropriate while I'm dressed like this, so I'm sorry. This is a ridiculous way of doing it, but it has to be said. We have to acknowledge the amount of people who were laid off. And if you were laid off in 2023 or at the start of 2024, because even since writing and recording the audio for this video, there's been more redundancies. It happened at Thunderful today. I'm truly, truly sorry. It's awful. It's just so awful. I'm sure this helps me saying this to you while dressed like this. Although saying that, hey Jeff Keighley, it's not that hard to fucking acknowledge it, is it? Alright, well that was a bit bleak, but it's important to mention. Well, I hope we get something fun now instead, something a bit silly, a bit of a laugh. I said fun, not fucking stupid.
Let's round this video out with a few smaller, sillier predictions. Things I would like to see, rather than them being based on any amount of critical thinking.
Not that I'm capable of doing that in the first place, to be fair.
For starters, now that Microsoft owns Blizzard, I would love to see them attempt to port World of Warcraft to the Series X. This is not as ridiculous a prediction as you may think. As recently as November 2023, the team at Blizzard admitted that they think about porting the mammoth 14-year-old MMO to consoles, quote, all the time. Now backed by Microsoft, who's to say a team of engineers intimately familiar with the Xbox hardware won't be up for the challenge of making that dream a reality? With live service games on the way out, would it not make sense to place one of the industry's oldest and most successful forever games front and center on your subscription service, rather than investing in something new that is all but destined to fail? More than anything, I just think this would be really weird. Imagine playing WoW on a controller. Would they try and map that enormous hotbar to a number of wheels, similar to how Baldur's Gate 3 functions on console? Or would they attempt to recreate the controls from scratch, like they did when they brought Diablo 3 over to Xbox and PlayStation for the first time? Also, isn't it about time someone rose up to challenge the Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy XIV, the two most prominent console MMOs? Who better to dethrone the kings than the original Titan itself? Console ports of games are so commonplace these days, we don't really get unusual, ambitious ports of PC games anymore. Even though it's been well documented how I feel about playing WoW in the modern era, I'd still love to see it come to Xbox. I mean, why not? Right? They paid $69 billion for the thing. They may as well get their money's worth, alongside Candy Crush and Over the Hedge Hammy Goes Nuts on the Nintendo DS.
Okay, come on, there must be something deranged in this orb for sickos like me. Something completely unhinged that will never happen. Yes.
It will come as no surprise to long-term subscribers of this channel that I absolutely adored last year's Resident Evil 4 remake. Capcom's sensational retread breathed new life into the 2005 classic, creating an action horror shooter that modernized the vision of the original game without replacing it, serving very much as its own unique experience. After finishing the game's excellent Separate Ways DLC over Christmas, I decided to duck back into Mercenaries mode to try out the new characters and beat some high scores. Mercenaries is not only a thrilling score attack mode that harks back to the value you used to get with PlayStation 2 era action games, it's also the best example of how Capcom have arguably perfected the third-person action shooter with the Resident Evil 4 remake. Fights are frantic, chaotic, and tense, shots tangibly impact enemies, and melee attacks carry weight. It's exhilarating to duck and weave between the grasping hands and swinging scythes of a group of hissing villagers. In the main game, fights are framed as horrific attempts to survive against impossible odds, but Mercenaries flips the goal, creating a space that lets players feel powerful instead. Featuring generous ammo drops, a combo counter, and a thumping soundtrack, Mercenaries is a wonderful, perfect thing. So why hasn't Capcom capitalized on this? For years, the company has been attempting to make Resident Evil a multiplayer mainstay, pumping out mediocre attempt after mediocre attempt for over a decade in a desperate bid to compete with the likes of Call of Duty and Dead by Daylight. RE-verse or Reverse or whatever the fuck that's called, Resistance, Umbrella Corps, Operation Raccoon City. Capcom pushes these stinkers out into the public eye, only to shrug and return to the drawing board when they inevitably fail to make an impact.
This makes literally no sense to me. Capcom has already made the perfect Resident Evil spin-off game with multiplayer potential, and released it on the Nintendo 3DS of all things.
This year, I would love for Capcom to make a Mercenaries standalone game in the same vein as the Mercenaries 3D on the Nintendo 3DS. They could use the same combat system from the Resident Evil 4 remake, add the ability to play it in co-op, and sell it as a full-priced game. It would allow you to play as major characters from the series fighting familiar enemies in iconic locations. Leon S. Kennedy fighting zombies in the Spencer Mansion, Jill Valentine suplexing cultists in a Spanish village, Claire Redfield launching an RPG at Lady Dimitrescu. Over time, they could add in additional characters, locations, weapons, abilities, perks, cosmetic costumes, crossovers with other Capcom games. The design document for this game practically writes itself. With the exception of 2018, we've received a brand new Resident Evil game every year since 2015. We're clearly a few years away from both a new numbered entry and a new remake, so come on Capcom, why not make 2024's Resident Evil release a standalone Mercenaries title?
Or failing that, just re-release the original trilogy again on modern consoles. And I will buy that. I will buy anything you do that's Resident Evil related, because I am but a kitten and you keep giving me the cream. Lap it up, lap it up, lap it up. What the fuck am I saying? Can we wrap this up? Every editor I've ever worked with has always said I could probably do with cutting like 25% of my word count down. You'd think I'd have learned something from that, but I never did. Oh, what's this? Oh, that's quite a nice one.
Consider for a moment Hi-Fi Rush, a single-player game released last year that featured an experimental combination of rhythm action and hack-and-slash mechanics, gorgeous cel-shaded visuals, and a superb soundtrack that included both licensed and original bangers. It launched the same moment it was announced onto multiple storefronts, as well as Xbox Game Pass, took around 11 hours to complete, and was universally praised by both critics and fans alike. More of this. That's my prediction. With live services waning and single-player games consistently performing well, and let's not forget that multiple huge developers were recently snapped up by an enormous publisher desperate to fill its subscription service with quality games they can push out on a regular basis, I think 2024 will be the year companies invest in smaller, more experimental projects that are cheaper, quicker, and less risky to develop. At the time of writing, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown looks to be the first high-profile release in this vein. Published by Ubisoft, developed by the team behind Rayman Legends, here is a smaller-scale installment in a popular series that has been hailed by critics as the year's first gem. I want to see smaller, weirder games from Sony, EA, Activision, Bethesda. I'd say Nintendo, but they've been doing this throughout the Switch's life cycle. You're perfect, babe. Never change. Mwah. We don't need forever games. We don't need monstrously large open-world RPGs that take months to complete. We need games with smaller scopes, the return of AA side projects, and publishers that invest in fresh takes on existing, long-running franchises. I want to see the days of Dead Space and Mirror's Edge make their return. I want to see Sony make something like Gravity Rush or Tearaway again. I want to see Microsoft remake Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4. These are the games that will define 2024. And you know what? I don't think this prediction seems too unlikely. Come on, industry. Let's get weird.
Well, I'm afraid I've used up all my wizard juice peering into my orb and must now return to my wizard nest to rest until the new year. But before I go, I'm going to stop doing the voice because it's making my throat hurt. I thought it might be quite fun to have a little look at the predictions I did at the start of 2022, so 2 years ago, and just see how wrong I was, because I don't think I was right about anything, so let's go over that. Let me just pull it up on my wizard iPhone. Docs. Wizard docs. There it is. Okay, hold on. Okay, so I did 7 predictions. This fucking wig. Okay, so I made 7 predictions in 2022. Let's see how many I got right. Number 1, the Switch Pro is revealed, launching 2022/2023. No, I did not get that right at all. Are you kidding me? I said that Breath of the Wild 2 would be a launch game and would come out in November 2022. Good one. Number 2, Sony step up to challenge Microsoft's Game Pass dominance, but it's kind of underbaked, so no one really cares. I think I got this right, actually. I predicted that back compat games would be streaming only, which was sort of right. I guess it is for PS3 games, but I don't know whether I predicted that PS1 and PS2 and PSP stuff would also be streaming, but they haven't really done a huge amount with PS2 stuff. I still think PlayStation Plus in its new incarnation is quite shit, so I'm going to give myself a tick for that one. But in that, I did also say that the biggest game of 2022 would be an Xbox Game Pass title, and I was right, because it's against the... what's it called? Against the Fall? Oh, I can't even remember the name of it. That says a lot. Number 3, the Mario movie will be good, but Sonic 2 will be better. Sort of? I don't know if I can give myself a point for this. So I did say that the Mario movie would be visually stunning and make a lot of money. I guess I was right about that. I got the story completely wrong. I said that they would be real people who would jump into the Mario universe, and that was not what it was at all. But I did say that they'll greenlight a Zelda movie. That bit was a joke, but it turned out to be true. I don't want to see that movie. I think a live-action Zelda movie is just a really bad idea. Also, the Mario movie came out in 2023, and I haven't seen Sonic 2. Let's move on. Number 4, Valve announces Half-Life 3. It's not a VR game, and it's optimized for the Steam Deck. Let's move on. Number 5, GTA 6 is revealed, but it's stuffed full of live service guff, and everyone gets really angry about it. No, not the case at all. Number 6, major publishers attempt to capitalize on NFTs, inevitably get their arses absolutely handed to them. This is sort of right. I mean, a few companies tried it. Square Enix. Did Square Enix even do anything with it? They kept threatening to, and then I can't remember seeing a single NFT project by them. I mean, either way, NFTs are dead. I think I was correct about that. We've all benefited from that one being correct. Number 7, it's a great year for Nintendo games. If I was going to give myself a point based on that banal statement, then yeah, I would be correct. But the problem is in the video I said, Mario Odyssey was going to get a sequel that year. Metroid Prime Trilogy would come to the Switch. and Mario Kart 9 would be announced. No, what we got was Splatoon 3 and Last of Us Kirby, which is better than any of the boring shit I predicted, so a win for Nintendo fans. Well done. Like you need another win. So yeah, I'm always wrong. And that's part of the charm of my predictions. It's quite funny that this is the 4th predictions video I've done, and I think I did my first one 12 years ago. Hey, I'm nothing if not inconsistent. Thank you for watching. It's been really fun to make a video again, and please subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment. What are your video game predictions for 2023? Let me know, and that'd be good. I would like to see them. I'll probably reply to them. And please make sure to listen to my podcast, Indie Venture, about indie games. It's good. People like it. You can subscribe to that by searching Indie Venture in any podcast app you have. Alright, that's enough self-promotion. I can feel my head leaking. Not a joke, so I should probably do something about that. Bye!